Udea and her 7 brothers. Once upon a time there was a man and his wife who had 7 boys. The children lived in the open air and grew big and strong, and the 6 eldest spent part of every day hunting wild beasts. The youngest did not care so much about sports, and he often stayed home with his mother. One morning, however, the whole 7 were out going for a long expedition, and said to their aunt, "Dear aunt, if a baby sister comes into the world today, wave a white handkerchief and we will return immediately. But if it is only a boy, just brandish a sickle and we will go on with what we are doing." Now, the baby, when it arrived, proved to be a girl, but as the aunt could not bear the boys, she thought it was a good opportunity to get rid of them. So she waved a sickle, and when the 7 brothers saw the sign, they said, "Well, now we have nothing to go back for," and they plunged deeper into the desert. The little girl grew up to be a big girl, and she was called by all her friends, though she did not know it, Udea, who has driven away 7 brothers into the strange lands. One day, when she had been quarreling with her playmates, the oldest among them said to her, "It's a pity you were born ever since your brothers have been obliged to roam about the world." Udea did not answer, but went home to her mother and asked her, "Have I really got brothers?" "Yes," replied her mother, "7 of them. They went away the day you were born, and I've never heard from them since." Then the girl said, "I will go and look for them until I find them." "My dear child," answered her mother, "it is 15 years since they left, and no man has seen them. How will you know which way to go?" "Oh, I will follow them north and south, east and west, and though I may travel far, yet some day I will find them." Then her mother said no more, and gave her a camel and some food, and a servant and his wife to take care of her, and she hastened a cowrie shell round the camel's neck for a charm, and bade her daughter to go in peace. During the first day the party journeyed on without any adventures, but the second morning the servant said to the girl, "Get down and let my wife ride instead of you." "Mother," cried Udea. "What is it?" asked her mother. "Barker wants me to dismount from my camel." "Leave her alone, Barker," commanded the mother, and Barker did not dare to persist. But on the following day he said again to Udea, "Get down and let my wife ride instead of you." And though Udea called to her mother, she was too far away, and the mother never heard her. Then the man seized her roughly and threw her on the ground, and said to his wife, "Climb up." And she climbed up, while the girl had to walk beside. She had meant to ride all the way on her camel, as her feet were bare and the stones cut them until the blood came. But she had to walk on till night, when they halted, and the next morning it was the same again. Weary and bleeding, the poor girl began to cry, and implored the servant to let her ride, if only for a little. But he took no notice, except to bid her to walk a little faster. By and by they passed a caravan, and the servant stopped and asked the leader if they had come across 7 young men, who were thought to be hunting somewhere about. And the man answered, "Go straight on. By midday you will reach the castle where they live." When he heard this, the servant melted some pitch in the sun and smeared the girl's hands with it, till they looked as worn and cracked as his did. Next he bade his wife get down from the camel and told Udea to mount, which she was thankful to do. So they arrived at her brother's castle. Leaving the camel kneeling at the entrance for Udea to dismount, the servant knocked loudly at the door, which was opened by the youngest brother, all the others having been away hunting. He did not, of course, recognize Udea, but he knew the servant and his wife, and welcomed them in gladly, thinking, "But who does the other servant belong to?" "Oh, that is your sister," they said. "My sister? But she is a servant. Look at her hands, how worn they are." "That may be, but she is your sister for all that." The young man asked no more questions, but took them into the castle, and he himself waited outside. As soon as they were alone, the servant whispered to Udi, "If you dare tell your brothers that I made you walk, or that I smeared you with pitch, I will kill you." "Oh, I will say nothing," replied the girl, trembling, and at that moment the 6 elder brothers appeared in sight. "I have some good news for you," said the youngest, hastening to meet them. "Our sister is here." "Nonsense," they answered. "We have no sister. You know that the child was born a boy." "But that is not true," he replied. "She is here with Barca and his wife. Only she too is a servant," he added softly, but his brothers did not hear him, and pushed past joyfully. "How are you, good old Barca?" they said to the servant. "And how comes it that we never knew that we had a sister till now?" And they greeted Udi warmly, while she shed tears of relief and gladness. The next morning they all agreed that she would not go out hunting, and the eldest brother took Udi on his knee, and she combed his hair and talked to him of their home until tears ran down his cheeks and dropped on the back of her hand. And where the tears fell, a white mark was made. Then the brother took a cloth and rubbed the place, and he saw her hands were not dirty and cracked at all, but soft and clean. "Tell me who pinched you over like this," she cried. "I'm afraid to tell you," sobbed the girl. "Barker will kill me." "Afraid? With your 7 brothers?" "Well, I will tell you then," she answered. "He forced me to dismount from the camel and let his wife ride instead. The stones cut my feet till they bled, and I had to bind them. After that, when we heard your castle was nearby, he took pitch and smeared me with it." Then the brothers rushed in wrath from the room, and seizing his sword, cut off the servant's head, and then his wife's. He next brought some warm water and washed his sister all over, till her skin was clean and shining again. "Now we have our sister," they all said. "The fool's Barker must have thought us to believe that for an instant we could have a sister who was a lowly servant." And all that day and the next they remained in the castle. But on the 3rd morning they said to their sister, "Dear sister, you must lock yourself in this castle, with only the cat for company. And be very careful never to eat anything which she does not eat too. You must be sure to give her a bit of everything. In 7 days we shall be back again." "All right," she answered, and locked herself into the castle with the cat. On the 8th day the brothers came home. "How are you?" they asked. "You have not been anxious?" "No. Why should I be anxious?" The gates were locked. The gates were locked fast, and the castle are 7 doors, and the 7th is out of iron. What is to frighten me?" "No one will try to hurt us," said the brothers, "for they fear us greatly. But for yourself, we implore you to do nothing without consulting the cat, who has grown up in the house, and take care never to neglect her advice." "All right," replied Udi, "and whatever I eat she shall have half." "Capital! And if you're ever in danger, the cat will come to us and tell us. Only owls and pigeons which fly around your windows know where to find us." "This is the first I've heard of the pigeons," said Udi. "Why did you not speak of them before?" "We always leave them food and water for 7 days," replied the brothers. "Ah," said the girl, "if I had only known, I would have given them fresh food and water. For after 7 days anything becomes bad. Would it not be better if I fed them each day?" "Oh, much better," they said, "and we shall feel any kindness you do towards the cats and pigeons exactly as if we were shown to ourselves." "It set your minds at ease," answered the girl. "I will treat them as if they were my brothers." That night the brothers slept in the castle, but after breakfast next morning they buckled on their weapons and mounted their horses, and rode off to their hunting grounds, calling out to the sister, "Mind you, let nobody in till we come back."
Very well,
cried she, and kept the doors carefully locked for 7 days. And on the 8th day her brothers returned as before. Then, after spending one evening with her, they departed as soon as they had finished breakfast. Directly they were out of sight, Udea began to clean the house, and among the dust she found a bean, which she ate.
"What are you eating?"
asked the cat.
"Nothing,"
she said.
"Open your mouth and let me see."
The girl did as she was told, and then the cat said,
"Why did you not give me half?"
"I forgot," she answered, "but there are plenty of beans about. You can have as many as you like."
"No, that won't do. I want..."
"But how can I give it to you? I tell you I've eaten it. I can roast you 100 others."
"No, I want half of that one."
"Oh, do as you like, only go away," she cried. So the cat ran straight to the kitchen fire and spit it out and put it out. And when Udea came back to cook supper, she had nothing to light it with. "Why did you put the fire out?" she asked.
"Just to show you how nicely you would be able to cook the supper. Didn't you tell me that to do what I liked?"
The girl left the kitchen and climbed up on the roof of the castle and looked out. Far, far away, for she could hardly see it, was the glow of a fire. "I will go and fetch a burning coal from there and light my fire," thought she, and opened the door to the castle. And when she reached the place where the fire was kindled, a hideous man-eater was crouching over it.
"Peace be with you, grandfather,"
she said. "The same to you," replied the man-eater. "What brings you here, Udea?"
"I came to ask a lump of burning coal to light my fire with."
"Do you want a big lump or a little lump?"
"Why, what difference does that make?"
she said. "If you have a big lump, you must give me a strip of your skin from your ear to your thumb. If I give you a little lump, you must give me a strip from your ear to your little finger." Udea, who thought that one sounded as bad as the other, said she would take a big lump, and when the man-eater had cut the skin, she went home again. And she hastened on a raven, beheld the blood on the ground, and plastered it with earth, and stayed with her till she reached the castle. And as she entered the door he flew past, and she shrieked from fright, for up to that moment she had not seen him. In her terror she called for him.
"May you get the same start as you've given me."
"Why should you wish me harm?"
asked the raven, pausing in his flight.
"When have I done you a service?"
"What service have you done me?" she said.
"Oh, you shall soon see,"
replied the raven, and with his bill he scraped away at the earth till he smeared blood all over and flew away. In the night the man-eater got up and followed the blood till he came to Udea's castle. He entered through the gate, which he had left open, and went on till he reached the inside of the house. But here he was stopped by 7 doors, 6 of wood and 1 of iron, and all were fast locked. And he called through them, "Oh, Udea, what did you see your grandfather doing?"
"I saw him spread silk under him and silk over him, and lay himself down in a 4-post bed."
When he heard that, the man-eater broke in one door and laughed and went away. On the 2nd night he came back and asked her again what she had seen her grandfather doing, and she answered him as before, and he broke in another door and laughed and went away. So each night till he reached the 7th door. Then the maiden wrote a letter to her brothers and bound it around the neck of a pigeon, and said to it,
"O thou pigeon, thou servest my father and my grandfather. Carry this letter to my brothers and come back at once."
And the pigeon flew away. It flew and it flew and it flew till it found the brothers. The eldest unfastened the letter from the pigeon's neck and read what his sister had written.
in a great strait, my brothers. If you do not rescue me tonight, tomorrow I shall be no longer living, for the man-eater has broken open 6 doors, and only the iron door is left. Make haste! Post haste!
Quick, quick, my brothers, he cried. What's the matter? Said they. If we cannot reach our sister tonight, tomorrow she will be prey of the man-eater. And without more words they sprang on their horses and rode like the wind. The gate of the castle was thrown down when they entered the court and called loudly for their sister. But the poor girl was so ill with fear and anxiety that she could not speak. Then the brothers dismounted and passed through the 6 doors till they stood before the iron one, which was still shut. "Udea, open!" he cried. "It's only your brothers!" She rose and unlocked the door, and throwing herself at the neck of the eldest brother, burst into tears. "Tell us what has happened," he said. "Now the man-eater traced you here."
"It was a cat's fault," replied Udea. "She put out the fire so that I cannot cook. Oh, about a bean! I ate one and forgot to give her any."
"But we told you in particular," said the eldest brother, "never to eat anything without sharing with the cat."
"Yes, but I tell you I forgot," answered Udea.
"Does man-eater come here every night?" asked the brothers.
"Every night," said Udea. "And he breaks one door and then goes away."
Then all the brothers cried together, "We will dig a great hole and fill it with burning wood and spread a covering on the top. When the man-eater arrives, we will push him into it." So they all set to work and prepared a great hole and set fire to the wood till it reduced to a mass of glowing charcoal. And when the man-eater came and called as usual, "Udea, what did you see your grandfather doing?" she answered,
"I saw him pull off an ass's skin and devour the ass, and he fell in the fire, and the fire burned him up."
Then the man-eater was filled with rage, and he flung himself upon the iron door and burst it in. On the other side stood Udea's 7 brothers, who said, "Come, rest yourself a little on this mat." And the man-eater sat down, and fell right into the burning pit which was under the mat, and they heaped on more wood till nothing was left of him, not even a bone. Only one of his fingernails had blown away, and it fell into an upper chamber where Udea was standing, and struck under one of the nails of her own finger, as she sank lifeless to the earth. Meanwhile her brothers sat below waiting for her, and wondering why she did not come. "Oh, what could have happened to her?" exclaimed the eldest brother. "Perhaps she has fallen into the fire too." So one of the others ran upstairs and found his sister stretched out on the floor. "Udea, Udea!" he cried, but she did not move nor reply. Then he saw that she was dead, and rushed down to his brothers in the courtyard and called out, "Come quickly, our sister is dead!" In a moment they were all beside her and knew that it was true, and they made a bier and laid her down on it, and placed her across the camel, and said to the camel, "Take her to her mother, but be careful not to halt by the way, and let no man capture you, and see you kneel down before no man, save him who shall string to you. But to him who strings, then kneel." So the camel started. When it accomplished half its journey, it met 3 men, who ran after it in order to catch it, but they could not. Then they cried, "Stop!" but the camel only went faster. The 3 men panted behind till one said to the others, "Wait a minute, the string of my sandal is broken." The camel caught the word string and knelt down at once. The men came and found a dead girl lying on a bier with a ring on her finger. And as one of the young men took hold of her hand to pull off the ring, he knocked out the man-eater's fingernail, which had stuck there. And the maiden sat up and said, "Let him who gave me life, and slay him who slew me." And when the camel heard the maiden speak, it turned and carried her back to her brothers. Now the brothers were still seated in the court, bewailing their sister, and their eyes were dim with weeping, so that they could hardly see. And when the camel stood before them, they said, "Perhaps it has brought our sister back," and rose to give it a beating. But the camel knelt down, and the girl dismounted, and they flung themselves on her neck and wept more than ever for gladness. "Tell me," said the eldest, who, as soon as he could speak, "how it all came about, and what killed you."
"I was waiting in the upper chamber," she said, "and a nail of the man-eaters stuck under my nail, and I fell dead upon the ground. That is all I know."
"But who pulled out the nail?" asked he.
"A man took hold of my hand and tried to pull off my ring, and the nail jumped out, and I was alive again. And when the camel heard me say, 'Let him live who gave me life, and slay him who slew me,' it turned and brought me back to the castle. And that's my story."
"I'm sticking to it." She was silent, and the eldest brother spoke. "Will you listen to what I have to say, my brothers?" And they replied, "How should we not hear you? Are you not our father as well as our brother?" "Then this is my advice. Let us take our sister back to our father and mother, that we may see them once more before they die." And the young men agreed, and they mounted their horses and placed their sister in a litter on the camel, and so they set out. At the end of 5 days' journey they reached the old home where the father and mother dwelt alone. And the heart of their father rejoiced, and he said to them, "Dear sons, why did you go away and leave your mother and me to weep for you night and day?"
"Dear father," answered the son, "let us rest a little now, and then we will tell you everything from the beginning."
"All right," replied the father, and patiently waited for 3 days. And on the morning of the 4th day the eldest brother said, "Dear father, would you like to hear of our adventures?" "Oh, certainly I would." "Well, it was our aunt who was the cause of our leaving home, for we agreed that if the baby was a sister, she should wave a white handkerchief, and if it was a brother, she should brandish the sickle, for then we would know nothing to come back for, and we might wander far away. Now our aunt could not bear us, and she hated us to live in the same house with her, so she brandished the sickle, and we went away. And that is all our story." And that is all of this story.